Everybody knows these super high level bosses are really good money in this game. However, a lot of people aren't quite at that point yet. You're not killing Zamorak at 100% in rage over and over again consistently. You're not hunting down the super high GP rates of things like Raciel or things like Zook in hard mode or high in rage Telos. But you have entered PVM a little bit and you are looking at some of the bosses to try and increase your gear and your bank sizes, all this sort of thing. Well, what's somewhere that you can actually look that right now is really good GP for a mid-level boss for PVM? Well, what if I said there's a normal mode boss that's actually pretty damn good? Yep, normal mode Kerapac. This boss is crazy good GP right now because the commons from it are insane and you're going to be getting a good consistent amount of GP just from taking this boss on in normal mode. There's a few reasons why, so let's talk about it in this video, and I'm going to give you a few tips as well, and then I also will show you the loot that I got from doing this for a couple of hours on my alt account. So this doesn't have like best in slot gear or anything like that, it just had unperked gear, tier 90 weapons, but magic, so you could even do better with necromancy, and a few other non-best in slot things. So that being said, let's talk about it. So Kerapac normal mode has no requirements to take him on. However, I would recommend if you're using necromancy, probably have level 70 to 80 gear plus, especially your weapons is probably the main thing. But if you're using anything else, probably 85 to tier 90 because the other stuff just doesn't really compete that early on. But yeah, necromancy, if you have access to this, which I say most people probably do at this point, especially the low level players, like it's best access to PVM, you're going to be able to do this in like tier 70, tier 80 gear. I'm using tier 90 for this video because I'm in magic, and magic sucks right now, it's trash. But my account unfortunately doesn't have necromancy leveled up, so here we are. But all my gear was unperked, so it wasn't like I was like over the top OP or anything. In fact, again, I was competing with like level 80 necromancy probably. The loot in this video is going to be based on 3-minute kill times, as that's what I averaged on this account. But of course, many people are going to blow this boss up a lot quicker than that, or maybe take just a little bit slower as you start introducing yourself to the boss. But as for recommendations, I would suggest having the base overloads if you can. If you don't have these, then you probably should be focusing on either low level stuff like God Wars 1, maybe God Wars Dungeon 2, or maybe even things like non-combat money making, leveling up skills and that sort of stuff to make GP to be able to invest in these in one of the double XP weekends or something like that. Having them pays off a lot, and the reason that you always bump into those videos that are like, oh, have overloads, it's because they're really important. And then otherwise, it's just anything that's going to boost your DPS. Bring vulnerability bombs, DPS aura, all that sort of stuff. And finally, this isn't actually going to be a guide. I'm more just showing the loot and the value of the boss for this video. So if you are interested in a guide and understanding all the mechanics, because there are a few mechanics for phases 1 to 3, and then there's like a tank test / DPS test for phase 4, which is probably where most people will struggle. I do have a guide and I will link it in the description for you guys. So let's just get straight to the loot. You can see here that I have gathered up the loot on my account for across 2 hours of killing the boss. Again, reminder, this is 3-minute kill times. So you're probably looking at about 16 to 17 kills an hour because of the fact that you need to bank and all that sort of stuff. And then if you need to trip to the GE for anything, about 16 to 17 kills is probably realistic at this kill time. Now, the reason that Kerapac normal mode is actually really good right now is because of the consistent GP, like I mentioned earlier. This manuscript of Jazz is around about 1.2 mil. Dragonkin bones are about 15k, and then you've got your alkaballs, cannonballs, many other things as well. And not only that, you have the chance of getting the rare drop still, such as the Scripture of Jazz, which is around about 12 million GP right now, the Great Concentrator Blast Codex, and Kerapac wrist wraps. They're not overly expensive rare drops, but they are going to add to your GP per hour just by a little bit when you do finally get your hands on them. And it's great here because you get 3 loot piles if you solo every time you kill it. This means it's not overly uncommon to see a rare drop, but you also are going to be getting 3 loot piles of this really good high value trash loot, I guess, or common loot every time you kill the boss too. Not to mention, it's really good for charms. But it's not uncommon to see drops between 1.5 to 2 to 2.5 million GP here, even in normal mode, which is crazy for a 3-minute kill on like a account without like insanely good gear. That's a lot of consistent GP for something that's not incredibly difficult to do. This is definitely going to be a great pathway to increasing the amount of gear you have and moving on to other bosses. So, selling off my loot from 2 hours, I managed to get myself nearly 30 million GP from just the common loots. If we're getting around about 16 to 17 kills an hour, that puts us at just under 1 million GP on average per kill. Now I will note here that I kind of screwed up a little bit and I didn't bring along my ring, my Pontifex ring here, because it's not fully upgraded and I didn't bring it along until later on. So I was getting tier 1 Troves and not the tier 3 Troves. The Troves here can drop a decent amount of GP, but they can also drop the pages for the book, and also they can drop the Pernix quiver fragments. Had I only got the tier 3 Troves, probably would have made a little bit more GP. But if you have the upgraded ring, which you should absolutely work on, you have an increased drop chance for rares, and you also have access to the tier 3 chests, which have Pernix quiver fragments as well as the Scripture of Jazz pages. All of this GP will add up and make a big difference, so I didn't get any of these from there because I kind of screwed up on this bit, but you can keep that in mind. But either way, 30 million GP for 2 hours of Kerapac without any rare drops is insanely good. It's like 15 mil an hour just in commons at 3-minute kill times. Then you need to factor in the rare drops, because I managed to snag 2 Scriptures of Jazz on my alt account. Main still doesn't have one, but on the alt account we got 2. These are 12 million GP each right now, which means I can add an extra 24 mil here on this specific trip to Kerapac. Overall, I made myself around about 52 million GP for the 2 hours here, which means we're at 26 million an hour. This is pretty crazy, and the amount of upgrades you can get from earning this much GP an hour for someone who is not even got perks, or you're in tier 70, tier 80 necromancy gear, you're going to be upgrading very quickly here. Now, you're not going to get rares every single time, so I'd probably say you're looking between 17 to 22 mil an hour, probably on average at these kill times. This is still insane, and of course, anybody who is killing the boss a lot quicker, maybe even like 1.5 minutes, your GP per hour rate is going to go up a hell of a lot. Getting 25 to 30 million GP an hour, if you're halving my kill time, for killing a normal mode boss, which isn't overly difficult and doesn't have too much demand on it, and is a hell of a lot of fun, is a massive way to invest your time. So if this is the sort of boss that you are interested in, you have around about that level sort of gear, and you are wanting to get some GP from getting into PVM a little bit, and have the chance at getting that fun and exciting moment of a rare drop, Kerapac normal mode is definitely somewhere to take a look at. With that being said though, let's talk about a few tips that you can take advantage of, and also AFK normal mode Kerapac. Wait, what? Now's probably a good time to quickly remind you guys of the fact that there is a merch store. If you're interested, you can grab yourself a potion lamp, you can grab yourself a little wall torch, or you can grab yourself a combo with a mouse mat, something like that. And there's some other stuff in the works as well. But if you're interested, then check it out. And all the support is very much appreciated. All right, back to the video. So for a few tricks, the main thing you're going to want to know about is, for the first mechanic, if you stand underneath Kerapac when he does his little voice line or his text line, if you don't have sounds on, and then he's about to hit his staff into the ground, as long as you're underneath him when he does, this mechanic doesn't exist and nothing will happen. So just right click on him, or just underneath him, and then click the walk here button, or left click between his legs and stand underneath him when he does this. Then for the second mechanic, the best way to deal with this is by using escape and not surge, because escape will keep you in attack range of Kerapac, meaning you won't have to run back to him to be able to hit him. You just press escape before he dives on top of you, so just as his staff comes forward. And of course, your cooldowns are reset if you time this correctly, meaning you'll have escape for every single one of these should you time it correctly in the first place. Make sure to have your ring fully upgraded, because it's going to give you passive effects then from the bank. That way you don't have to bring it along. You also get an increase to your drop rate for rares here with that too. If you're just not quite skipping lightning as of right now, then you can just surge through it directly, but you have to surge quite early, or otherwise just use resonance and run through it, use reflect and run through it, that sort of stuff. You'll be okay. It doesn't hit that hard in normal mode, but make sure if you are passing through it by like running, that you do keep going directly through it, because if you stay in it for a little while, you are going to take a good amount of damage. Make sure to take advantage of Time Warp. You can use this to reset things like Sunshine, Living Death, Death Swiftness, and Berserk, and those are probably the best things to use it on. It basically allows you to use it in every single phase. For the final phase, your best bet is honestly to Time Warp, use Devotion, do as much damage as you can to him while praying magic, and then use Devotion again once your Time Warp resets. By the time you've used both of your devotions, he probably should be close to dead, and if not, just use like a reflect or something and just keep eating and you'll be okay. But using Time Warp to get 2 devotions in the last phase makes it a hell of a lot easier, because he hits you pretty hard here. If you can solo this, then it's better to do so, but if not, then come in as trio, because if you come in a trio, then everybody gets even loot, whereas if in a duo, whoever does the most damage is going to get 2 loot piles, and if that's not you, feels bad, and if it is you, then you feel bad. So if you can't solo it, then a trio is probably a better option. As for AFK, there is actually an AFK method for this. Of course, it is high level. It is not something easy. Like AFKing Kerapac in normal mode is going to have a ton of requirements. But I'll link the PVME Discord in the description. I normally do videos like this anyway because it has a ton of information. But also the AFK Kerapac guide will be on there. And if I can find a video from like a smaller creator, I will also put one in the description as well, so you can go check them out too. But other than that, Kerapac normal mode is insanely good. It is great money. It is actually probably a stupidly good boss for people who are getting the bridge between like, I've just started PVM, what do I kill now, to the people who are wanting to upgrade the gear to move on to the higher level stuff. But for a normal mode boss, doing 3-minute kills, earning like 20 to 22 million GP an hour, or even going lower than that in kill time and making like 30 million GP an hour, it's absolutely insane. So good luck with your kills, and hopefully you have a bit of good luck. Catch you later, guys. Bye.